Seattle Mayor Bruce Harrell released the Draft 1 Seattle Plan last week, a major update to Seattle's comprehensive plan that will shape how the city will grow over the next 20 years.
And part of the housing agenda plan proposes allowing new types of housing across the city and includes a plan to build 100,000 units. And joining us to continue the conversation this morning is Rico Quirindongo with the Seattle Office of Planning and Community Development. Rico, good morning to you.
Good morning to you.
Nice
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being with us this morning. It's an important conversation, and I want you to talk with us about the need for housing around here and how this specific plan hopes to address that.
So we know that, as with much of the nation, that we are in the middle of a housing crisis. For the city of Seattle, where we are almost 800,000 people across the city, we have grown in jobs over the last decade at a faster rate than we've been able to build new housing to meet a growing population. So what we're trying to do with this comprehensive plan is to do an upzone across the city. And part of that upzone is in response to the state House Bill HB 1110, which was passed not in this year's session, but a year ago, which requires for all cities and counties to essentially get rid of single-family zoning and allow for as many as 4 units of housing to be provided on any formerly single-family lot. So we'll be doing that across the city in our formerly single-family zones. 75% of our city footprint right now is single-family. So that upzone will provide some added capacity for home building across the city.
Well, let's talk more about the zoning you mentioned. The 200-page plan outlines proposed changes to 24 neighborhoods. Can you talk about why those zoning changes are needed? And for those that aren't familiar, what does it exactly mean? And also, what is your message to people in those neighborhoods who don't want any changes at all?
So that's understandable. I think what's really important for the city is to acknowledge and understand the importance of the historic fabric of our neighborhoods and understand that we have many rich communities across the city, many areas where people have owned a home for a long period of time, whether a new single-family home owner or someone who has been in a neighborhood or their family's been in the neighborhood for generations. We want to make sure that with this upzone that we are building in what I like to call gentle density. So if, for example, in a single family neighborhood, a new stick frame 3-unit or 4-unit project is being built, how can that building be put in place in a way that fits in with the existing fabric of the neighborhood? And at the same time, whether looking at our arterials, our corridors, and a new designation, a new place type that we've created called neighborhood centers, which identify places across neighborhoods like in Maple Leaf, where there's an existing small selection of commercial storefronts, retail areas that are what I call naturally occurring in a neighborhood. How can we capitalize on those locations, provide a little bit of greater density at those existing areas so that you can be a first-time home owner, you can find a reasonable rent, you can walk to a local grocery store, walk to a park, walk to your K-12 school, get on transit easily to get to a job downtown. What we're trying to do is really capture the idea of what a 15-minute city looks like, where you don't have to own a car to live in the city, that doesn't become an additional financial burden for you. You can get around easily and you can afford to live where you work.
Rico, what do you say to critics who say that this plan doesn't go far enough when you think about the projection of growth for the city of Seattle? Potentially 1 million residents over the next couple of decades. And is the plan going to be enough to sustain that?
So it's a really good question. And so I would start by saying that the existing growth plan in place, Seattle 2035, which you can go to our Office of Planning and Community Development website and pull down the existing plan for comparison. We still have capacity right now to build 160,000 units across the city. And so with this upzone, what we're building is additional capacity. So while you will hear us make a reference to 100,000 units being what our target is with this growth strategy, the reality is that with the upzone that we're presenting, we're actually building in much more capacity than that. So I hear that there are folks that want us to do more, and I think that's always going to be the case. I think that what we have tried to do is to find a balance between creating a gentle density model that provides for incremental growth in our neighborhoods, provides for greater growth opportunities and greater density around our transit-oriented development sites near Sound Transit light rail stations and near our bus rapid transit stations, as well as these neighborhood commercial nodes that I've mentioned. And we've identified 24 of those neighborhood-centered nodes across Seattle.
And the mayor's Draft One plan also highlights the importance of climate and sustainability. How will this help communities most vulnerable to climate impacts, Rico?
So we know that it's really important for us to have a resilient city, particularly as we continue to grow. So working with the Office of Sustainability, working with communities like Duwamish Valley, we are trying to ensure that as the city continues to grow, that we are moving toward carbon neutrality, and that for a typical family that we're providing options for them to be able to live in the city without a car and have that be a reduction in their carbon footprint. And, we have programs where we are making it possible for people to buy HVAC units that are more green friendly, if you will, that also reduce their carbon footprint. And I think we're trying to look at a whole range of opportunities to ensure that as the city becomes denser, that we, in reverse, that we reduce our carbon footprint.
Rico, I want to go back to something that you said a moment ago, I think in your first response, which was about how the number of jobs in the city has grown faster than the amount of housing that's been built around here. I'm wondering if you can touch on why. Is this a matter of maybe the city not anticipating that growth would happen so quickly? Is it supply chain issues? Is it cost? Is it labor? Or is it kind of a multifaceted collection of things that has led to that situation? I'm sure it's very complicated, but kind of boil it down for us.
Can I just say yes to that full list?
Yes, you can.
Because I think the answer is yes.
Okay.
I would say that what we are required to do as a city is to do as much proactive planning as we can, but then we also have to be reactive to the market. So job growth has exceeded anybody's expectations with regards to how many new jobs we would create year over year in the city. And so that has been a factor. And then another market for us on the other side, talking about the housing market, is, with the increased cost of interest rates, the cost to produce new units has gone up exponentially, which has been a real downward force on the market as it relates to the production of units. Now, having said that, we had a record year in 2023. We produced over 12,000 new units of housing in 2023, which puts us ahead of the curve when we look at other cities across the nation that are our partners or our peers. So we're doing pretty well.
Sounds good. We know it's complicated, Rico, and thank you for joining us for such an important conversation. Obviously, the city's going to continue to grow, and there's a big need for housing out there, and it can be a slow process sometimes, but the city is obviously making progress. Thanks for your time this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate the conversation.
Nice to have you with us.